Good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's workshop on the evolution of the soul. I'm Greg Barrette, I'm the minister of Unity Northwest Church, and I want to introduce somebody very special in my life. Jane Elizabeth Hart has spent many years on the spiritual path. Since this is a Unity church, I think it would be appropriate to share some of her background in Unity. She was the Unity licensed teacher and was the lead teacher of two of the three largest churches in Unity, and was a frequent guest at the third largest of the three largest churches in Unity. She was an executive at Unity headquarters for many years, and then retired in the year 2000 to start the Center for Enlightenment to support souls in their spiritual evolution. She has a wonderful website filled with resources, tools, videos, products, many talks, podcasts, and you can Google her, Jane Hart, Center for Enlightenment, it'll come up. And I really urge you to make that part of your spiritual resources. This afternoon, she touched on this morning some of the tools that she's going to talk about this afternoon, but she wants to go into greater depth, tell you a little bit more of the background and the stories, maybe that might inspire you, because wherever you are in your stage of your journey, she's been there and has something to share that would be applicable to what you're facing right now, especially that yearning of your soul. There's a part of you that wants to grow, that wants to know, that wants to move beyond the seeming limitations of the state of consciousness that you seem to be in right now, that wants to move to another level. And sometimes we feel like we don't know how to engage that, what to do about that. Because she has walked and is walking this journey, she has not only the tools, but the energy to support your soul as you take those steps. And so she and I are going to do a little bit of dialoguing, but I really want you to open your mind, open your heart, and know this is a rare opportunity for your soul. You are a soul in evolution. You have made the decision to come into this lifetime to engage your spiritual growth at a level that you've never done before. The opportunity is there, the resources are there as never before. It's an opportunity that you can seize. You can seize this moment. This afternoon can be life-changing for you, but it will be life-changing for you to the extent that you open your mind and you open your heart. And I want you to join with me in welcoming my spiritual teacher for the last 15 years, Lynn's for the last 20 years, and somebody who can be a support for your soul as well, Jane Elizabeth Hart.
This is so much fun because Greg and I haven't done a class for probably 3 or 4 years together. At least. So we're going to have fun today. This is just a wonderful opportunity for us to share our beingness with you and supporting who you are in spiritual evolution. And I will probably tell you a lot of interesting stories. My journey is very, very fascinating. Fascinating to the point of, oh my God. So we're here. Okay. What are we going to do? I guess I'd like to start out by telling you all how the spiritual power tools got developed and why I have them. The spiritual power tools are developed because I had no tools. I started on this journey with nothing but the desire to know who I am, not even knowing that I was going to uncover the many things I uncovered. I put together, as I was teaching classes on this, some tools to help my students that helped me. I didn't know exactly how to help myself in meditation. I didn't know how to measure my consciousness in order to take control of my thoughts. And so I developed different little gadgets, if you will, which I call tools now, that supported me in this journey. In 1969, when I started my journey, deeply, because I was always kind of working on this, but in 1969, I had an experience where I had a past life understanding, a past life revelation. And I understood that I had another lifetime. And to me, who was a Methodist and never trained in that thinking at all, that was a shock to me completely. Shock. And that in '69, you know that they didn't talk about much about this. Charles Fillmore in 1891 said, "We've all lived other lifetimes. You're on a soul journey." And I just, oh, thank you, God, there's somebody else that has something. 1891. Is that amazing? And here I was trying to push through the barriers of people who said, oh, there's no such thing as past lives. And they were very clear to me that you must be out of your mind. And I had to fight to get through it, because I knew what I experienced. I knew that I was on a journey. And when I met Greg, he also had some past life understandings. Man, was I happy to find him, because I knew where he was in his evolutionary state, and I knew that I could be a support to him to be okay with it. Because it's one of those things that when it starts to unfold within you, it's kind of overwhelming. At least I experienced that. What about you?
Absolutely. In fact, I wasn't ready initially to experience that. I had a lot to work on in this lifetime. And I remember doing some processing and asking meditation, why am I not remembering any past lives? It's because you got your hands full with this one, pal. And so, but I remember when I first got together with Lynn and we began to do processing together, she immediately started having past life memories. And so, when the time is right, these things come. But until the time is right, they don't.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter. You're growing anyway. But when it does happen, you really do need support, because what it's doing is uncovering aspects of your being that are hidden in your subconscious mind.
Which takes me to
The spiritual iceberg.
yes. And this is what I was in meditation, and I was meditating. It's like, you are 1/10 conscious. And I said, what? I'm 1/10 conscious? What on earth does that mean? 9/10 of you is in the subconscious. That baffled me. I had no understanding of that, so I went immediately to the person I thought was the most knowledgeable that could help me, and they didn't know what I was talking about. But yet there was a part of me that understood this concept. And when I found the spiritual iceberg in the early 70s, and I understood I was 1/10 conscious, and 9/10 of me was in the subconscious, and that's where all the memories are stored. Every memory, every past life, the evolution of your soul is there. And you are only 1/10 aware of who you are. And when I started to uncover that, I began to understand that if this is all I'm conscious of, what would it be like if I was fully conscious? What would happen to me? How would I act? How would I be? Fully conscious. Now how, in God's name, am I going to work through this process? That's where I was, this process. Well, what do you think of that?
Well, I know what you're talking about. It's above the surface is where your conscious mind resides. And we often in unity classes and in much of our reading, we hear about the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the superconscious mind. In a very easy definition, the conscious mind is just what you're aware of right now, consciousness. Your subconscious mind is all the experiences that you've ever had. It's like the hard drive. Anything that you've ever gone through in your life is stored in your subconscious mind. And you say, well, I don't remember it, so it's not there. Well, you don't remember your dreams, but scientists say you dream every night. Similarly, you have past life memories that are buried beneath the surface of your conscious mind that affect you profoundly every day, that affect your likes, your dislikes, certainly your relationships. And haven't we all had that? You walk into a room, you say, I like that person, I don't like that person. And it isn't because he's wearing a black shirt and she's wearing a white blouse. It's because there's a resonance from a former life. And then there's the superconscious mind, which is the God self, the spiritual aspect of us. And the meditation, which you've been teaching, which many of us are trying to practice. How many of us have ever tried to meditate? Ever? You know, you try to meditate. And you know what? If you try to meditate, you meditated. Because it isn't about winning and losing and judging. It's about the effort you make. When you make that effort, you do two things. You activate your superconscious mind, but you also begin the process of the bringing up into consciousness the lower 9/10, the subconscious mind. And when those things come up, what's that like?
Okay, that's a big subject. I'm going to address it right now. My first experience with uncovering the subconscious was I was meditating with a friend, and we had been meditating for about a year together. She was my spiritual buddy, my spiritual pal. I found a year earlier in my adventures at Unity. She was a Unity student, and I found her, and she was also meditating. And I was so excited when I found her because I had somebody to talk to. Man, I didn't have anybody to talk to. And she was there, and she had the same desire as I had to know God. And she was the first person I ever heard of that ever spoke to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I know that God can talk to me." My mother said, I walked over to her and I said, "Mother, everything is vibrations. Everything is vibrations. Everything in the world is vibrations." And she said, my mother said, "Oh, honey, that's real nice." And I said, "We're on track with each other." I said, "We are on track." So we began the process of meditating together to connect with what I want. We both wanted to make a God connection. And so we did our beginning. Well, we had been doing this off and on for a year. And then one day, she called me. No, one day I went over to her house and we were meditating, and this great white light came in, and it scared us both very much. We didn't know what happened to us. This light came in and enfolded us, and we were both had our eyes closed, meditating. I said, "Oh my God, oh, this is God. Oh my God, God, ooh." We opened each other's, my eyes, she opened hers, and we said, "Oh, what just happened to us? We got picked up in this light. What does that mean? Does that mean God is in this room?" You can imagine, we were like little kids. "Oh my God, what is this?" And then we calmed down, and I said to her, "Sherry, I got a message." In that moment, I got a message. "Don't tell me your message, Jane," she said, "because I got a message. You write your message down, Sherry, and I'll write my message down. And on the count of 3, let's look at our messages." Oh, we're so naive. And boom, it was, "The veil will be lifted." That was the message we both had. The veil would be lifted. Now, what was the veil? What was the veil that was going to be lifted? So the next 3 weeks, we ran around like crazy, trying to find somebody who could tell us what the veil was. And guess what? Nobody talked to us. They said, "Oh, honey, you are, 2 girls are so sweet. If you got that message, we can't help you." So we said, okay, so for 3 weeks we continued our meditation. Okay, this part is very interesting that happened to us. One morning, I was to go over to Sherry's house at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to do our meditations. We did that once a week. We got together and meditated. We each had little children, almost the same age, And so every day at 1 o'clock we would meditate at home, but then we did one big meditation together. And so we were meditating in the morning, as I did, and she was meditating in the morning before we got together in the afternoon, and she called me up. It was about 8:20 in the morning. I remember this so clearly. And she said, "Oh my God, Jane, the weirdest thing happened." "Oh my God," she said, "I was meditating, and all of a sudden, I saw you in my meditation, and I said, 'Oh my God, Michael, I'm so happy that you're home, that you've come to be with me.'" She said, "It scared the bejeebers out of me." She said, "Oh my God." She said, "I know Unity believes in reincarnation." And I said, "Well, I don't. I've never been taught that. Nobody's ever told me anything about reincarnation my whole life." She said, "Well, my parents have been in Unity, and they said once that Charles Fillmore believed in reincarnation, and Ernest Holmes, and blah, blah, blah." So I said, "Okay, I'm coming over to your house this afternoon, and let's talk about it." So I went over to her house that afternoon, and she said, as I walked in the door, "Oh, just by the way, on my way over there, some voice spoke to me." My teacher, I found out later, was my teacher. I'm driving, and it said, "Do not be shocked. Do not be shocked." And I thought, what's going to happen to me? Not to be shocked. Well, I came to the door, I knocked on the door, and she opened it. And she started crying. And she said, "Oh, Michael, you're home. Oh, I love you so much. Thank you so much." And I'm thinking, oh my God. What do I do with this? I said, "Okay, Sherry, I'm Jane." She said, "Oh, I don't know what's going on with me. I think I'm out of my mind, Jane. I think there's something really weird about me." And I said, "Sherry, it was so interesting, because you're fine. You're really fine. I had some wonderful poise about me. Don't know where it came from, or do I?" That poise came, and I said, "It's okay." So she told me the story about Michael and her, and she told me her name. And so I'm questioning her, like, "Okay, when did you know Michael?" And she told me, "Oh, you were in the Crusades." And then she suddenly changed her voice and said, "And I am so mad at you." And I said, "What?" And she said, "I am mad at you. Why did you leave me? You never came back for me." And I'm shocked, because I didn't know what to do with that. So the next thing that happened was she said, "I have to forgive you. I have to forgive you for leaving me." She said, in the time she was Sherry and she was this other person, and I'm trying to stay centered and deal with all this stuff that's coming along. And then she said, the most miraculous thing. She said, "I want to wash your feet. I want to forgive you." And that's a humbling thing for somebody to come in and say, "I want to wash your feet and forgive you." I felt so humbled. I thought, oh my goodness. So as I put my foot out, she got a basin of water and she washed my feet. And all of a sudden she was done. She said, "Wow, it's done. It's over. I know I've forgiven you. It's okay." And then, of course, after that, we thought, oh my goodness. Is this the veil that was lifted? Was this what they were talking about when they said the veil would be lifted? Yes. The veil between the conscious and the subconscious started to lift and started to bring information into my conscious mind. And as it brought information to my conscious mind, then I could do what I needed to do about it. And later, a week later, I had my first reincarnation memory. When I see myself behind that iron gate. I'm only maybe 10 or 12. I'm very young. And I'm crying, and I'm yanking on the gate saying, Mother, why have you left me here? And I thought, I called Sherry, and I said, oh my God, I think I'm experiencing something weird. I'm coming over. And I got in my car, drove right over. And as she opens the door to me, I say to her, Mother, why did you leave me there? You never came back for me. And I suddenly realized, wow, I was mad at her. After I got through telling her some of the things I was feeling, and they weren't very pleasant, I said, you know what, I have to forgive you. Forgiveness is the answer. I have to forgive you. So I got the pail of water out, and I washed her feet. And all of a sudden, it was okay. I realized and understood what karma was. What was karma? As you sow, so shall you reap. We had had another life together. We had both left each other. And now, we had been reunited. Well, from that moment on, we were reunited. And 50 years later, we're still united. She's still my spiritual mentor, my spiritual equal, so to speak. Everything I go through, she goes through too, even though we're 2,000 miles away. We can still contact each other and talk to each other. And if I'm taking a spiritual step, boy, she's taken it too. And it's just been wonderful. So there's spiritual friends for you to support you on your journey. Have you found one?
Yeah, I think so. I'm married to her, and I can tell you, if we hadn't done this past life work, we would not be married to each other today, because, you know, the Crusades, well, she was one of the people who went off with Jane, and I was one of the people that stayed back. So, and there was a lot of feelings that we had to work through on that too. You know, you say, oh, this is fanciful, but think about it. Think about all those people in your life that you have these feelings about. All these conflicts that don't make any sense. Somebody who treats you totally unjust. Why would that guy, that woman, why would they treat me like that? I never did anything to them. Or had you done something to them? And so you start to realize that it's the only thing that makes sense. It makes sense of all the injustice of life. It makes sense of the feelings that you're having, which are irrational a lot of the time. I'm not the only irrational person in this room. I have feelings that don't make sense, and it's because they're rooted in past life experiences in the context of which they make sense, but without which it doesn't make any sense. And they're beneath the surface. So meditation breaks off chunks of the iceberg under the surface, and they come up to be healed through the mechanism of forgiveness. Now, when Lynn and I started having these memories, we didn't wash each other's feet. And the reason why is because she has since developed tools. But the 7 steps is how we used the method in order to forgive ourselves and each other. And that's the other thing, is forgiving yourself, because, you know, that's a humbling thing. You know, people think about reincarnation in terms of, oh, it's grandiose, makes you feel like you're special. Actually, what you find out is that there are experiences that you had that would really challenge you, and you have to do self-forgiveness, because pretty much the gamut of human experience we've all experienced and done. So that we see that person on TV and we're judging him, or that person in our lives, that's us. And the emotion we feel about it often is the guilt that we need to forgive within our own being.
And you brought up a good point there. We incarnate in groups, you see. Like Lynn was the Crusades with me. Other people that are in my group, my spiritual group, have been in many, many lifetimes. The Crusades, and we were once priests and nuns, and oh my God, we've been a little bit of everything. And I found out the many, many lifetimes that I had. And I just I want to say, I know 13 of my lifetimes, and I'm done. It's like I didn't have to see all the 500 lifetimes in the evolution. I had to have enough to understand who I am in God presence, God understanding, God awareness. I needed to have those understandings. Now, is it important for you to know your past lives? At some point, that might happen for you, but it is not at this point of your evolution. The most important thing is to learn to meditate, and then those things, if they're to be yours, will come forth and you will understand. But remember one thing, that everybody in your life has been with you before. You all are old enough in evolution to have other people that you are working through karma with right now. This is what I found. My children were in other lifetimes with me. The man I married was in another life, many other lifetimes. Some of my friends were 12, 13, 14 lifetimes with me. You know, we just follow. And my friend Sherry, every lifetime, she and I played parts. I was the man and she was the woman. She was the man and I followed her, and I was a man and she followed me. There was all kinds of craziness that went on. But guess what? We uncovered our soul in the adventure. There's a soul there that was in all those lifetimes. There was a soul that was traveling with. There was a soul that was wanting to know its true self in God. See, that's the point. The point is we evolved through all this time and space to finally come to that point where God is ising in us and we are ising in God. There is no separation. This iceberg melts. That iceberg melts. I tell you, it melts. I know it melts.
And Lynn and I were on opposite sides of a lot of situations, and that was the challenge. I mean, I really believe that we were drawn together as some kind of cosmic experiment, kind of like, you know, somebody's going, if they can make this work, anybody can do it, you know? Because we really had some tough things to work out, serious things that we had done, you know, to me to her and her to me and back and forth, that we had to do some forgiveness on. And once we got a hold of that, then we could work with it. But even if you don't remember your lifetimes consciously, it starts making sense. You look at your life, even if you don't consciously know what the lifetime was, you can say, oh, that boss I have a hard time with, obviously he's either reminding me of something that I've done, or he was in my life and something happened between us. Either way, you stop seeing yourself as a victim.
Yes.
And you have something that you can do about it, which is forgive. And if you forgive in this moment, you're doing a lot of work to melt that iceberg.
That's right. And that's what I found out, that by forgiveness, even if I didn't know what was the exact, who started the fight. If they're in there and they're pushing my buttons, I knew I had to do forgiveness work. And that forgiveness opened up all kinds of doors of consciousness for you and me.
It clears out your consciousness that can then access the next level of consciousness where all things are possible. You know, where you can receive from the mind of God. And that is the internet or the mainframe computer of the consciousness of the universe, which we can then download and bring that information into our conscious awareness, so that we're no longer just trying to rely on that little laptop that is our personal mind, but we're hooked into the universal mind. But forgiving, whether it's consciously with past lives or just forgiving in this life, and it still has that effect, opens up that avenue through which all that gateway, through which all that wonderful information can pour, and you start getting downloaded with information from a source that you didn't even realize you had, but it's a universal source. The mind of God is one mind, and it is a universal mind, and so it's like the mainframe or the internet, and then it comes right into your own awareness.
And the more, I'm losing my, excuse me, thank you. I drank some cold water, and cold water always does that to me. We're trying warm water. Let's see, where were we?
Well, get downloaded intuition.
Oh, wow. Yes. See, that computer was the only way that I could think about what I was doing when I was meditating. You see, I didn't have an understanding of what was all going on with me, but I began to see myself as tapping into a higher energy, a higher vibration, but I didn't know what to call it, so I said, I'm going to pretend like I'm a little laptop and I'm connected to the internet. That is exactly what helped me to understand. That's why this old relic is there. It's an old relic by now. Look at how much everything has changed. Everything has changed. And you start to tap into your intuition. It's the best thing you got going for you. Your intuition. It's a part of your equipment. It's a part of your equipment, like your arm is a part of your equipment. Your arm, if you had it behind your back and you never used it, you wouldn't know what to do with it. You let it loose and you find out how much more you can do with 2 hands than you can do with 1 hand. You can do so much more with your intuition than you can with just your intellect. And when I began to understand that I had an intuitive possibility, I began to access the higher energy because I knew that there was an energy field there for me to access. And that same energy field is there for every human being in this planet. It's just not me or thee, it's everyone. Everyone can access this intuitiveness. And I know that when I met Greg, he had a lot of intuition already from other lifetimes. Now listen to this, other lifetimes that he's developed his intuition. And so I would venture to say for you all, you have had other lifetimes that you have been able to develop your intuition. And now we want to pull that intuitive self out so that it can be active in your everyday life, not just occasionally, but all of the time. You want that to be part of who you are 24/7, but it has to be developed, and it has to be trusted, and it has an energy all of itself. And you have to be able to recognize the different energies, fields, which you can. And when I was told I was going to recognize different energy fields, oh my God, I thought, how is that possible? It feels so heavy. And then I said, okay, I trust it. You show me, because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So slowly but surely, those things got opened. And what about you? Because I know that you have a lot of intuition.
Well, you know, it's the 2 levels of the mind, and I think a lot of people have read a lot of things, and it's all really talking about the same 2 levels. The lower mind, which is the intellect, which is where I spent a lot of my time in my life. It's the 3rd dimensional mind. It's the mind of the personality. Those are all different words for that laptop, that personal self-mind. But then the next level up is the 4th dimensional mind. Would it let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus? It's that higher mind, the intuition. It is the mind of the soul, the mind of the spiritual self. And we're not complete until we access that, until we hook into that internet. And remember when you first had a modem, when you first got on the internet and made all those noises and everything? Well, when you first start accessing this, it's a little jarring. And then as time goes on, it gets smoother and smoother until it becomes a part of you. and it's something that has to be experienced. You can't just talk about it, but we've all experienced it. I know there's somebody in this room right now saying, oh, I wish I could experience it. The truth is that in dreams, or in times where you had a hunch, or in some kind of a gut feeling, everyone here has that access, has that connection, and that you have had that experience. Now the question is, how can you nurture it? How can you support it? And again, there's really two big tools here. One is meditation, and the other is forgiveness. If somebody wanted to start practicing with a little bit of intuition, and they've never really consciously done it before, what kind of things could they start working on that might be safe for them?
Oh, do little things like tell me what store I need to go to today to buy my groceries. Do I go to, well, we have Publix in Orlando, and we have Winnie something or other. I mean, just have stupid little things like that, and see where it takes you. And the more you use it, it's just dumb little things. I want the perfect parking spot. Lead me to it. I want the perfect store. I mean, these little things that aren't going to hurt anyone. I mean, if you do it wrong, you're not hurting anybody. You just practice a little more. And then you start to get comfortable with the intuitive nature. And then you trust it more. And you become a pro at it because you understand its vibration and energy, and you can trust it. You begin to trust it, and you begin to stand on it, and you begin to let that part of yourself free to move you forward.
You can ask for a dream. Say, I'd like a dream to help me with this. Or, you know, or just, it's that wonderful magic words, I don't know. Going in, asking a question, journaling. Write your question out and then write, I don't know, and take the first thing that comes up. And you'll start getting letters from God to you, written in your own handwriting, through the intuition that will come through. And we stop ourselves because we think to ourselves, oh, I don't have that ability, I don't have that access. But when we start to exercise it, two things will happen. First off, you'll start realizing that you have a lot more of that than you ever gave yourself credit for. And it has been there all along to some degree. And the second thing that happens is that you build it more and more. It's like a muscle, it's like riding a bicycle, it's like any skill. It becomes stronger and stronger so that you no longer are limited in your thinking coming from your intellect. And sometimes your intuition often will tell you things your intellect does not care to hear. It makes no sense to your intellect. What do you do in a case like that? I mean, here you are. I've come over to Sherry's house and all this. And how do you deal with that when your intuition starts coming through in ways that you're a little surprised about?
Well, you surrender to it. Surrender. That's another wonderful word to use. We surrender to that intuitive nature of ours. Surrender. When you don't know what else to do, say, I surrender, God. Help me. Because the help will come. Get your journaling out. We're going to talk more about that.
And clear the feelings that come up. You can write them out and find out what's really running you. And what you might find is a past life memory. Even if you don't realize it is, if that decision that you made, there's not enough to go around. If I speak my truth, somebody will slam me down. It came from another lifetime. And even if you don't remember the circumstance, writing that down and then saying, no, that's not true. I'm going to make a new decision here. Can retrain your subconscious mind, and it can open up the channel even wider.
I want to bring up something here that I think is so important, and that is any serious relationship you have, if it's with a child that belongs to you, any relationship, you talked about Lynn and Greg here, any relationship, you wouldn't be married to that person would not be in your life unless you had karma with that person. So anyone in your life is there to help you to understand and work out something. So embrace those souls that are in your life and ask and journal about them. I really don't like them right now, or I need to understand I love them so much. Oh, they're so wonderful, which is an excellent feeling. But all of a sudden, I don't like them very much. How did that happen? See, because we are third dimensional, we go back and forth in the opposites. And
We feel victimized by the opposites. We feel like we can't, it's not fair. When Lynn and I got together, we were guided intuitively, very strongly, both of us, through very direct intuitive guidance to get married very fast, early in our relationship. And we later figured out why. It's because if we do the load of karma we were carrying, we never would have done it. So once we realized what was going on, then we were able to work on it. So that positive energy of the karma brings you into the relationship. But if you stay with it, if you work with it, it doesn't mean the forms change in relationships. I'm not saying that, but if you work with it creatively and you work with it, it's an opportunity for you to grow. It's never anything that victimizes you, and you can work with it, and you can learn with it, and you can grow. Which brings us, I think, to the tool that brings us up and out of the lower level of consciousness where we stay stuck. We're in that consciousness that says, I'm so stuck. I just can't get out of this. And all of us go through this every day. We go up and down the spiritual thermometer, and everybody got a handout on this, and we talk about it all the time on Sundays. But when you're stuck down in that lower level, Lynn and I will say to each other, where are you now? I'm about a -3. I'm about a 2. And then how do you get up above a 5 into your higher self, into that part of you where you can start to get answers and things start moving and you don't feel like a victim anymore?
well, the way the spiritual thermometer helped me the most was, and why I put it together in the first place, because I didn't know how to measure my feelings. I didn't know where I was, because I was vacillating from the lower part of myself and the higher part of myself. I was doing this, and by being able to identify, oh, I'm in the lower 5 level, then there's something I need to do or not to do. When I was below the 5, don't do it. Because you're coming from fear, you're coming from an area that is not supporting your highest growth. Once you see that, then you can say, okay, I need to meditate, I need to journal, I need to move it up so that I am vacillating at that higher point.
Yes, sometimes, and it's almost so simplistic that it doesn't sound like it could be real, but sometimes simply willing yourself or imagining that you are at a higher level. So I'll say, where am I with this issue? Something's bothering me. Somebody's in my life, I perceive them to be a threat or I have some negative feeling about. Where am I with this person? Oh, I'm at about a 3. Where would I like to be with this person? Oh, how about a 9? Okay, and just imagine myself lifting up like on an elevator. And you know what? When you get up to the 9 in your imagination, you start thinking about that person or that situation, and everything looks different. You start to access the answers. And you mentioned a couple of other methods that lift us up. One is to drop the ballast, to clear away the negativity through journaling and writing down, I'm feeling angry right now. I'm thinking that this and that and this and that, and then saying, well, what could I think about it differently? And start writing that out will also do it. And the second one was the meditation itself. Meditation in and of itself lifts us up to the place where we're one with our answer, where we're no longer in that lower self of fear and anger and drama.
Okay, that brings me to another part that I want to talk about. The observer self. I talked about this morning. You have to become the observer. You have to do that for yourself. You have to observe where you are on the thermometer, or you're never going to get out of it. You have to develop that part of yourself that can be the observer, because otherwise you get entrapped in the negativity and you can't get out because you're not observing. You can't change anything that you don't know that you need to change. So developing that observer self is of utmost importance on your journey. It's your biggest tool, along with meditation, because then now you're observing what's down below, and you can change it and have different outcomes.
You used a $50 word this morning. You got it in meditation. She was told to bifurcate herself, which really means you split yourself into two aspects in your imagination. One is looking at the behavior, at the feelings, at the thoughts. And so that observer self for me, and some people say that they got something out of this, and some people say I can't relate to it. But for me, to say, oh, little Greg is feeling this, and then as time went on, I was like, he is feeling that. And now I even say about my ego, it's feeling afraid, it's feeling less than, it's feeling triumphant, it's feeling superior and special. And looking at it and identifying it as if you're just watching a movie, because the truth is, you are. It is, like you said, the ego, the personal self is like a car, it's like a vehicle. It is that which gets you around, and you can objectify it and, as the observer self, bifurcate and start looking at it and start seeing the behavior of it, whether you call it an it or a he or a little Joe or whatever it is you call it. Somebody I was just reading says they think it's their roommate. They imagine it's their bad roommate,
Their bad roommate.
Yeah, they think about, he's leaving his clothes around again, oh boy. But, for that person, I've never used that tool, but it might help you. But we need to learn how to separate ourselves from that behavior so that we're not stuck in it anymore. And that in and of itself will lift us up as well.
Well, one of the things I did was the little me and my big eye and my little eye. My big eye was my soul self, and the little eye was my little Janie. Even if I was 40 or 50, it was still little Janie trying to control the situation that is uncontrollable. Uncontrollable! You think you have control over things. I had no control over anything. And I tried to control outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And I stubbed my toe every time. Because they've been in so many lifetimes together, it's very hard sometimes when they start to pull up and start to feel, oh, she doesn't like me or he doesn't like me. It's all in their own minds. It has nothing to do with what's really happening. Believe me, when I start to evaluate where I was by looking at myself as the observer, I started to realize very clearly that everybody was in their own box too. So everybody is in their limited self in this little tiny box, and you're trying to talk to their little box. And they're not hearing you because they're in their little box.
That shows up in families a lot.
Yes. How do you open the box? How do you do that? You do it by being committed to doing it. I am bumping against another limited self.
Iceberg.
And now I'm not feeling so happy. He's not doing what I want him to do. Oh, now I'm going to try and control him. You have to do what I want you to do.
And every time another chunk gets knocked off and comes to the surface to be released.
And you're not telling me I'm beautiful all the time, honey. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to always worship at my feet. You mean you're not doing it?
Obviously not. But there's the iceberg, and it's like, oh, okay. And so I have something to look at, which is not taking it personally. Perhaps there is something I should see about it, and it's not for me to own her feelings about it.
That's right. Oh, did you just hear that? That's wonderful. Say that again.
Simultaneously, I'm looking and saying, I haven't been doing this and such, but I'm not going to own her feelings or fix her feelings about it, or I'm not responsible for her feelings about it.
Hands off. Hands off. Because whatever they're telling you, they are seeing you from their limited 1/10 conscious that's just this big, and they can't see beyond it. The door has to be opened. And it has more to do with the whole self than it does the limited self. And when this opens up, oh, we've already gone through the iceberg.
We're past the iceberg.
I'm still dealing with the
take a look.
iceberg. Oh, it miraculously appeared. But when we're dealing with the iceberg, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to tell you. When you meet somebody, and this helped me a lot, when you meet somebody and you're talking to them, you're hitting against their subconscious. Their subconscious, where they have all their past lives stored. So there's two icebergs hitting against each other. Now, what's going to happen? They hit each other, and a piece of their iceberg comes up to consciousness, and a piece of your iceberg comes up in their consciousness. Yes, absolutely. And now what are you dealing with? Two limited consciousnesses that can't see anything besides their 1/10th conscious. Why on earth, when I saw that, why on heaven's name would I ever want to stay in this limited space? And then I said, I want out of here. I want out. Show me whatever you need to show me, because I want out of the limitations that I am putting on myself.
We are never victims, except for in this one case. We victimize ourselves by staying stuck in the 1/10th conscious, by limiting ourselves, by refusing to acknowledge that there's something else going on underneath the surface. Now, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to stay in a situation that's abusive. It doesn't mean that there aren't issues to deal or address or whatever, but we'll never see clearly what it is we actually should do or would do with a better outcome until we acknowledge the fact that there's more to it than the 1/10 conscious mind, that there is something else going on underneath the surface. Once we realize that, then we can open up to the intuition to have revealed to us new outcomes, better outcomes. You said something about we're never in control of it, but we can determine better outcomes by cooperating with, not just embracing the situation as it is, but cooperating with the flow of things and the knowledge and the learning and forgiving and doing the work that we have to do in order so that a better outcome can take place. Whether that better outcome is that we walk away, or whether that outcome is that we embrace, or whether it is, whatever it is, the highest good for all concerned is what's going to result when we cooperate with whatever's going on and not try to control it.
Oh, that's the hard part. We're control freaks.
If I could just fix you, I'd feel better. And it never works.
Because I'm trying to fix you.
She's definitely cooperated with my soul's evolution, however, and she's gotten some good outcomes. So thank you.
Okay, where are we now?
Well, we're moving into.
Oh, yes. Oh my God. The most important relationship you'll ever have is with yourself. The most important relationship you will ever have is with yourself. You are with yourself all the time. You are never without yourself. So who do you want to be the best friend to? The thing that's with you all the time. Because you are God. Because there's a part of you that is trying to uncover the whole self, not the ego. The ego will never get through. The ego has to die. It has to die. Because the ego wants its own way and wants to prove that it's right and wants to control. And it's always about the opposites. ask you that are sitting with me right now, what is your deepest desire? What is the thing you want most out of life? Is it a better relationship with some other person? Is it a new car? Is it living on the ocean? Living in California? Alaska? A better job? What is driving you? That you have to uncover. What is the most important thing in your life? What is it? That runs your show. That runs everything. You have to start with that. What is most important? Is it to have a singing career because you're a musician? If that's what's most important, it will happen for you. Maybe not this lifetime, but the next one. Then practice, 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 so that you can have the greatest career in the world. But be honest with yourself. If you want to grow spiritually, then that's what you want, you will be tested. Because with every step is another test spiritually. It's just like school. We got tested with every time you are to take a step, you're going to have a test. And I thought, well, God loves me. Why would God ever test me? Because I wanted to find out, did I learn what I needed to learn? And if I didn't, I need to go back and do it over again. Just like we have to repeat grades, because I didn't quite get it. I didn't quite get it. The door is open wide. It's like, come in. But once you get inside the spiritual journey out of humanhood, because you have free will, God gave it to you. You own it. And free will is yours. So you've taken a step spiritually, you will be tested. You want to take another step. Is it too hard? Because God can't go beyond your free will. Never will. It's in the law. It's part of the law. You have free will. You can have as many lifetimes on this planet as you want. You can do anything you want to do. You have free will. But once you say, I will the will of God, you're putting yourself into that will of God who says, okay, I'm taking you home. That's my will for you. My will is to take you home the fastest way possible. That is my will, God says. Are you up to it? Are you up to it? Oh, yes, that sounds like a fun ride. Oh, the test comes. Do you really want to know? You really want to know what's behind the door? And if you get a little peek, will you say, oh, that's too much for me? Oh, I'm going to go hide. Because it's never going to go beyond what you want. The spiritual goals will never go beyond what your soul wants, what you want. You have a tool. It's called your free will. And it's yours. And it belongs to your desires. Your desire and your free will move together. And they have to be aligned. They must be aligned, or they're not going to go where you want them to go. You can't be in two directions. You have to be focused. And that focus will be tested. I'm telling you how it works. I'm not sugarcoating any of this. Because if you want to know yourself and God, and you want to walk out of humanhood into Godhood, so to speak, you're going to have to leave
the third dimension behind, and move into the Christ consciousness. And Christ forgives. And you will be tested to forgive and forgive. And when you think you've forgiven everything, you forgive again. That erases karma. That erases karma. I just had to add that in.
Yeah. I remember in 1998 when we were sitting outside of Unity Village gates, and she said, "Pull over, Greg." Pulled over. It's in her car. I was driving, and she just looked right through me. She said, "What do you want?" My question's that. What do you mean, what do I want? You mean like out of life? What do you want, Greg? Oh, I think I want to serve God. Yeah, I was a minister. Been a minister for 18 years. She said, "Don't you think you ought to get to know God first?" And she had a look in her eye that was, I said, "Yes, that's what I want." And it was like, "Are you sure? Are you positive?" Because there are tests, but the thing is that the only thing that limits us is our desire to keep everything the same. If we're willing to desire something more, we're suddenly taking the limits off of ourselves. And then it will bring up all the things that need to be forgiven, as you said, that will erase the karma or that which is beneath the level of the surface of the iceberg. And the only thing that erases karma is forgiveness. And Jane Elizabeth came up with a tool which created the ability to release karma in a way that no other tool has ever done. And you know, I grew up, you probably did too. You should forgive. Shouldn't you forgive? I should forgive. We should all forgive. I wasn't very good at it. Occasionally, I mean, she did this thing about washing feet, but we can't walk around, especially the people that really make us mad. We can't wash their feet. What do? Or somebody who's died, or somebody who's, in our past, what do we do? And in answer to a real need in her life in terms of grieving when her mother died, she came to her an intuition, this 7 steps method, which then, when you began to have experiences of needing to forgive, came in pretty handy, didn't it?
Oh, it sure did. When I knew I needed to forgive, I didn't go to the first step. There was no thank you, God, for it. I had to go to the 4th step. Disappointments and difficulties. I went immediately there because that's what I had to write about. That was the thing that was going to free me. As long as I held hostage those negative feelings, I was going to take them around and they're going to strangle me. I needed to get rid of them. And so the 4th step was a thing. I have to go to disappointments and difficulties. And then I had to go to the next step, which was also forgiveness. And I found that I had to forgive myself 1,000 times. 1,000 at least. And I'm not exaggerating. Because I learned that I was erasing that 1/10 conscious and moving into full consciousness, and everything under there we go again. Everything underneath this had to be dissolved. And then I found out I didn't have to do it all. That God, the angels, whatever you want to call it, it was erasing. As much as I was giving 10%, they were giving 40%. They were doing far more than I was. And that was the good news. So those 7 steps have multiple uses. Forgiveness, and then it also, another thing, is I used it for my children, to forgive my children sometimes when I was not so hot as a mom, and also to release them to go on to what they needed to do. When they went to 1st grade, I took them up the 7 steps and let them go. Then when they went to kindergarten or wherever they were, high school, college, I had to go through. When my daughters got married, I had to release them to their next step in their evolution. So there's many things. I know that you've used the 7 steps for a lot of things.
Yes, and before I tell you what they are, could somebody turn down the air conditioning? It kicks off at 2 o'clock. So if you could turn it down to about 70 degrees, it'd be great. Just push the down button until it hits 70. Back when Lynn and I were trying to move from Florida to New Mexico, and I've shared this a couple of times, we had 48 hours, or we were going to take a hit in the 6 figures if we didn't sell our condo. And there was just one thing: we'd never had a single person ask to see it. It had been on the market for a couple of months. Nobody even had shown it. So the market was really cold. And so Lynn looked at me and she said, you know, we haven't taken it up the 7 steps. So we sat there and we took it up the 7 steps together, and we got one person who wanted to look at it in the next 48 hours, and they bought it. We were able to be free and clear and move forward. Now, it's not about condos, but it is. It's about anything. If you're going to get a new car, a car is a vehicle that symbolizes the consciousness you're in. You've got to let go of your old consciousness in order to move into a new consciousness, don't you? And so you take your old car up the 7 steps. When Lynn, she bought her very first car, and it was her own car, and she bought it with her own money, and we got we were going to move to New Mexico, and we were going to downsize, and so we were going to sell both of our cars, and we were going to get ourselves a family car together, and then I was going to get myself a used car later. So this was her. But to let go of her old car, she had not taken it up the 7 steps. And until she did, she had a lot of feelings about this new car, a lot of things that was holding her back. But once she took her old car up the 7 steps, suddenly she was free and she was able to make decisions that were new. And again, kids, you know, if you relate with your 13-year-old like they're 7, they're not going to like it very much, and it isn't going to work. You got to take the 7-year-old up the 7 steps. Similarly, Lynn and I take each other up the 7 steps because we're always changing and growing. You know, she's not the person I married. She's different. I am different. And we have to take ourselves up the 7 steps. That old consciousness, surrendering that old consciousness and taking it up the 7 steps in order to allow for a new consciousness to be birthed.
And I think that this becomes the scary part. This is the scary part. Because we get attached to our old. When we got a new consciousness, and it comes in, and you're very happy with it, and you're enjoying it, and you know how it works, you know everything about it, and then you have to let that go. And this is something, oh my God, I have taken myself up the 7 steps and let myself go, oh my gosh, at least 3 times a year, 4 times a year, because I want to move. And if I don't erase, I won't move. And I know that. So I am constantly allowing myself to let go of the old Jane and move into the new Jane, only to let go of that Jane and move into the next. And you have to be able to not be attached to where you are. Because the minute you're attached to where you are freezing yourself. You are freezing yourself in limitation. You have to do what you need to do and then take your next step. Let that step go and erase and take the next one.
The curriculum changes.
It does. It really does. I'm really giving you a lot of information on the journey, and it probably has a good feeling and a bad feeling. But the wonderful part of it, you're free. You're free for the first time in your whole many lifetimes. You have a freedom that you don't even know exists right now. Like the squirrel cannot relate to the human being. But there's a freedom to the next level of consciousness that you will know by experiencing it. And that's why I said this morning, please ask for God experiences, because that will open up the door to another God experience. And they're available, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And what we have to do is let go of the old limited self in order to move into a higher and more spacious part of ourselves. But just like when you were in math, one year you took geometry. The next year you took algebra. Totally different, but it didn't negate geometry just because you're learning algebra. Same with you and me. You may be right now, the curriculum might be to learn how to surrender. Just to surrender, let go. And then the next lesson, you'd have to take that up, the 7 steps, that old part, because the next lesson, you have to stand up for something. You got to be assertive and put forward an intention. And that's part of the lesson as well. We have all of these different things that need to happen step by step and stage by stage as we surrender our old consciousness and move into a newer consciousness. And then we move into that unlimited self. And we've been doing it all our lives anyway. The difference is now we can do it with a little bit more skill, more facility, with some tools. Because people go through these things anyway. We just go through them drag, kicking and screaming, not knowing and bumping our shins on things. Now it's like the lights turned on. And oh, now I can do it. So the good news is that we've got the tools, we've got the light, we've got the energy, and we also realize we're not victims, and we're going to get back up. We've got the intuition to show us which way to go. And if we will work all of these things, but it means diligence, not burnout, but just a little every day, staying with it, staying current with it, and working with it.
A little bit, just a little bit. When I saw the journey, I thought, how will I ever do it? It's just like anything else, a little bit at a time. It's a little bit. Just do, okay, right now I want to meditate. Then I'll do that. Then I need to bifurcate myself. I need to be able to observe myself. Okay, now I'm meditating, I'm observing. Now, the next step, I need to put my will behind my desire to master this lifetime. It's called mastering. When you get right down to it, it's mastering the limited self. That's where we're at. We're mastering the limited self. And that's where you are. You're going to be masters of that limited self. And you're going to free yourself by mastering it. And I wish somebody would have told me that when I started. Because it would have made a lot of difference.
Yeah.
A lot of difference.
But we have these tools, and you know, in the old self that we were in, we just stayed stuck in it, and we just marinated in it, and we didn't know which way was the way out. But if we'll sit down, oh yeah, I have this handout. I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to write out the answers to these questions. That's all I'm going to do. I'll give myself a half an hour. I'll put on the timer so I don't do 1 minute too long. So some of us need to do that, because otherwise we'll never do it. To put a limit on, and then something will come up. We'll realize something. We'll start to grow. We'll start to move. We'll start to know.
We open the door to our revelation, and revelations will come.
What's a revelation?
It's an understanding that breaks your illusion of where you are. That's a revelation.
And it comes with everything it needs in order for it to be implemented.
Mm-hmm.
It comes in.
Boom. And it's there. And all of a sudden it's, oh my God, I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened in an instant. Ask for revelations. I work with my group every Wednesday night. I say, open the door to more revelations, guys. Come on. We want to have more revealed to us and more revealed to us. Because in God, there's many, many, many dimensions of understanding. And oh my God, to move with the cosmic energy of this planet. Wow. Give yourselves a chance to do that.
And it's not about politics anymore. And it's not about your bank balance. And it's not about who wants to go out on a date with you. And it's not about the Blackhawks. And it's not about whatever the thing is. Okay, it's about the Blackhawks. But everything else. It's not about all the things, all the trivial pursuits that we thought were so important. Then your life goes from black and white to Technicolor, from 2D to 3D. It becomes from 3D to 4D. It moves into a new dimension, and then it becomes an adventure. It's like, wow, there's this horrible situation that I would normally feel victimized by, but I wonder what's in it for me. What can I do with this? Oh, I'm going to journal it. I'm going to write out the 7 steps. Whoa, a revelation comes, and I can take that and I can start to work with it. I can do some forgiveness work. I can realize some things, and I can work from a different level of my being. But it takes what? A surrender and a commitment. You got to surrender your old way of doing things, your old way of looking at things, your old self, your limited ego, the third dimensional, and then you've got to commit to the next level. And that's that desire you were talking about. The whole universe works on desire. Desire is what makes it all move forward. Without desire, nothing happens. So you've got to insert a desire as a cause that moves you forward. And what is your desire? If it's to live on the beach, I've lived on 3 of them. But maybe that's what you want. Is it to have a partner? Is it to have a bigger bank balance or a bigger house? Okay. But what if you made, as Jesus said, seek first the kingdom, the one true desire, the one deeper desire? What would happen to your life? First thing comes up for some people is, well, then I won't have my house. I won't have a relationship. I want this. All these things will be added unto you, he said, which means everything you need, not want, but need.
Yes.
And it's better for you.
Will be there for you. Everything you need will be there for you. And you have to trust that. You have to trust that. You will be tested on it too. Yes.
Do you get the feeling that it's we're moving into the time where you can lead them in a meditation that would open that door?
I think so.
I think so. I mean, Jean Elizabeth's going to do is energize and empower your choice, your free will, your desire, and give you a space to make that commitment to your soul. And so, this is our opportunity to do it.
And now just take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. There's been so much information given to you. Your head should be swirling. Your soul understood everything that was said. Your soul. Your soul knows the truth as it is unveiled in you. Each one here today has an opportunity to make whatever commitment they feel in their heart, whatever their desire is. God will fulfill that desire. God will fulfill your desire. So make it a very, very special desire that you will commit yourself to. This is my desire. This is my commitment to my desire. And it will go straight to the universe. The universal consciousness. And this is a personal desire. Yours is your own personal desire. Whatever it is, it's important to God. It's important. you a few moments just to meditate about this desire of your heart. God knows your heart. It speaks louder than any words you can say. And the great light of God surrounds you. And embraces your sincere desire. And we put that desire into the cosmic consciousness, the absolute. To be fulfilled. To be fulfilled. And here it is, Lord, here it is. I let go of this and I put it in your hands. And I trust that you'll prepare me in whatever way I need to be prepared to follow this desire. I surrender. Help me to fulfill this desire. I am open. I am open to fulfill it. Show me how. Show me how. Take my hand. Accompany me on this spiritual journey. Because everything is a spiritual journey. It's just not spiritual desires, but any desire of your heart is a spiritual desire. The ultimate desire is to know God in you. But all the other desires are just as beautiful. In prayer, preparing you to receive the great desire. Be true to your heart. Be true to your heart. If there's something in your life that you need support and love in, know that that's going to be taken care of. Thy will be done, thy kingdom come. There is only one kingdom anyway. It's God. God is the kingdom, the absolute. cosmic consciousness, the vibration that vibrates and keeps this world together. And we are grateful. We are grateful. Thank you for blessing our lives by making us more God aware of who we really are. I give up the identity I think I am to bring in the new identity that is mine to love and to serve. And the greatest relationship that I can have is with myself, because I'm having that relationship with God, because God is me and I am God. Man is God, God is man. Man is God, God is man. And that's the truth. And that indeed is the truth of the universe. And we say thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen and amen and amen. As we open our eyes and look around the room and see our travelers. We've got many beautiful travelers here, all traveling together. This is your spiritual journey. You're all in it together. Thank you for blessing me with your presence.